Good afternoon, everyone. Atmospheric anomalies abound. Surigay, now the strongest typhoon ever recorded in April, yet the same thing, the strongest recorded typhoon in November, right in the Philippines area. Probably the worst agricultural catastrophe. In the beginning of the 21st century, France declares emergency wine crops. Snow/hail blanketing the Saudi Arabian desert. Majorca, warm, sunny, tropical. Wait a second. Stay clear of the freezing mountains. Hikers told red alert. Temperatures plummet. Third major dust storm in 5 weeks in China. Moscow 140-year temperature records broken. Hence the reason I'm already planting my garden after this next freeze, which is record cold in the United States. I'm still waiting to plant. These strange atmospheric events are going to affect the calories available for your bellies. Research into the 5G network architecture reveals your mobile phone service could be maliciously used against you. New findings show 5G could use an exploit in your data and cause security flaws through cellular networks. As with any disruptive technology, bad actors and corporations will always look for ways to exploit lax security at the cost of you and your privacy. That's why I use Virtual Shield VPN, so corporations can't trace you or I across the web. You can head over to virtualshield.com, and in the download tab, I'm going to choose Firefox. And click Install Now to add the Virtual Shield add-on. It's just that easy. And get started with your free 30-day trial. Install it, click Connect. You'll see the shield turn from red to green. And you'll see how, from my initial service provider, I was able to even change my IP. Virtual Shield Network protected. Get Virtual Shield for 50% off today by going to virtualshield.com/adapt2030 or click on the link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And I cannot reiterate enough the urgency for you to learn how to grow food and start right now. Still trying to find the exact locations for the different plant species in terms of morning light, afternoon sun, afternoon heat, and then evening shade for all of what we're growing. 60 different types of vegetables, as well as putting some under cover in case there's more rainfall than usual, which would be expected in the eastern and southeast U.S. this year. Got to be able to cover your crops. So many things are awry. Our growing seasons are out of sync, and you just wonder why your food prices keep rising. Well, let's explain a couple of this is why your food prices keep rising and are going to in perpetuity. Strongest storm ever recorded for a month ever. Remember November of last year, it was the Philippines. That same storm had recorded also the lowest temperature record for a cloud top ever recorded on the earth in the month of November. In the Philippines, in the same exact area, almost the same exact trajectory of a typhoon. This one sets another record. Strongest typhoon ever recorded for April, ever in the history of recording typhoons. This goes back some 700 years. Although wind speeds were not so accurate as the Chinese were measuring along the coast 700 years ago, yet they had the tracks of all the typhoons and how many there were, the intensities of an entire village getting wiped away or only half a village getting wiped away. This was the way they determined wind speeds back then. But looking at 173 miles per hour, it's since dissipated, but it did reach that strongest typhoon on record for April. What's changing in our atmosphere? It's more what's changing in our solar system should be the question. Because now we have hailstorm blanketing Saudi Arabia. Ha'il. This was grapul, the mix between snow and hail, and then some other areas were pure hail. Some of it was borderline snow. But the grapal or grapule, however you like to say it in the French or the English, was a predominant amount of this storm. The strangest thing was the temperature was 28 degrees Celsius, which is almost 90 Fahrenheit when this storm occurred. So again, atmospheric disturbances, interruptions, incredibly high cold dropping right through and making those microcells of cold where this type of grapule or ice made it down through 90 degree Fahrenheit temperatures and hit. And not only was the sand at least 90 degrees, it hit and cooled the entire sand layer enough for it to accumulate, which is strange in itself. How much really fell? What you're seeing is not the full amount of fall and accumulation because that melted quite a bit to cool the temperature of the surface of the sand before it accumulated. Also along with this, massive floods through the Oddities. This was an enormous area covered in ice in the desert. So you have to think about that. 90 degrees Fahrenheit and you're seeing this much ice cover. Something strange. Now staying off the coast of Africa, circle right here, Majorca. Any of you in Europe obviously know this holiday spot. Tropical, warm, escape during the winter. It is a little mountainous on the west side. Beautiful for hiking, and you get that same topography. It has the exact same look as what I would consider coastline of Croatia, right along the Adriatic Sea. Has that same look, Greece. So you get a good indication of what the temperatures are like. But we're looking at massive snows here. Majorca freezing in the mountains. Hikers told to stay away. You're going to freeze to death if you go up there. High winds, incredible low temperatures, whiteout conditions, blizzard conditions. So they put it a red alert for the emergency. And going back to their meteorological service on Majorca, icy weekend, snow in April is highly unusual. Majorca Daily Bulletin putting this one out. Epic read on how strange and unusual it is. Being that it's a warm holiday spot for most of Europe, to escape the winter makes you pause for just a second. Moving over to Mauritius, this is off of Africa on the east coast, right down near Reunion Island. Anybody been surfing in Mauritius or Reunion? Volcanoes firing off on Reunion. Widespread flooding hits Mauritius, 2 months of rain in a single day. This is the thing where we're starting to pile up, and these rainfall events are going to get ferocious and more crop destroying as we move through. The massive record-shattering cold through the center of the U.S. right now is still ongoing. Problem is all the crops have just emerged and in the grass stage, and there's no snow to cover to blanket anything, so it's just ripping cold temperatures on top of supple grasses. Heaviest rainfall in 40 years. Singapore, flooding streets. They have great irrigation and flood control mechanisms through the city, and to get flooded at this level, that's an oddity too. Truly an oddity. Any of you who've ever been to Singapore, you know how high tech and the amount of billions and billions they put into flood control to try to make that water go away as fast as they can, and they're still flooded at that level. Ugh, something definitely is going on. Beijing engulfed in the third major dust storm in 5 weeks. That's another atmospheric cavitation. This is strange. But the dust storm season is just beginning, and at this intensity, it's so far off the charts. They need to put a new band of how many dust storms will be this year. Then Moscow breaking a 140-year-old temperature warm record at 22.6. It's about 73 degrees Fahrenheit. But just a sliver to the west, France, coldest, wiping out wine vineyards, a third of the crop, a couple $1 billion of French production. So the rare spring frost, here it is again, rare, unusual. You know, Majorca and France are pretty close together, so this cold event encompassed both areas. Shows you truly how far out of the ordinary it is. But for agricultural ministers to come out and say probably the greatest agricultural catastrophe for the beginning of the 21st century, okay, we're 1/5 of the way through the century. So 20 years around the planet in agriculture, and they call this the greatest agricultural catastrophe of the world in the last 20 years. These are huge statements. Huge. They all add up to show something greater in play. That was back on the 10th, 11th, and 12th. Fast forward another week, and here we are in the U.S. getting ready to have our Midwest grow zone wiped out through massive record shattering cold. And you can see where this is adding up. So if you cannot grow your own food, which I highly encourage you to go buy seeds. There's a seed shortage running through. I have a farm. Difficult to get seeds. There's no field peas, no field beans like iron beans or cowpeas, whatever, to plant for cover crop this year. I got 2 bags of buckwheat, the millet's out, and everywhere you look in the farm co-ops are running low on seed. They don't know when they're going to get it. And the farmers around East Tennessee can't get the seed they need right now to plant. So the conundrum we're in is all-encompassing, from the rainfalls to the cold to the seed shortages. Prices are going to rise exponentially by the end of the year. I am a little shocked myself, even having a farm, and what I'm seeing out here in East Tennessee is bleak in terms of what we're going to be able to grow. The rye's coming up pretty good right now. If you drive around, a lot of winter wheat and the winter rye is up and getting ready. I see a bit of harvesting going on right now. This record cold, even in Tennessee coming this weekend, is going to destroy almost every bloom that's out. So the early blooms for fruit, they're all gone. Got to start over again. I don't know. I've done this for 7 years, and I sit here and look and say, in earnest, it's in play, and you need to get ready. I don't care what fashion you get ready. Bulk buying with your neighbors to buy a cow and have it sent off. They're backed up for at least 6 to 8 months before they can even get a butcher to look at it. Farmers are keeping their cattle longer because they can't send them to be harvested because there's nobody to butcher it. Seed's not coming in. Rains are off. It's all around. Something's very wrong at the moment here. But everywhere you look, there's a problem with agriculture across the country, across the world. And governments don't want to talk about it. They want to talk about pronouns, not your food. You really might want to think about emergency storable foods, the 2-week or the 4-week emergency food supply. My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030. My Patriot Supply also has 1 month, 6 month, 1 year packs, and also the Mylar bags, oxygen packs, and things. So if you already have bulk foods sitting around in like a 25-pound bag, 50-pound bag, you can store it yourself for a longer amount of time. That link's in the description box below, as well as the links to all of tonight's stories and images. And remember, every time you purchase something from My Patriot Supply, it helps support this channel here at Adapt 2030 so I can bring you more research just like this to keep you and your families more grand solar minimum prepared. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I'll see you next time.